And the Oscar goes to Alejandro G. Inarritu.
This is the fourth Oscar and seventh nomination for multiple nominee tonight, Alejandro G. Inarritu. He took home 3 Oscars last year.
Please.
Directing and writing for Birdman.
Yes, I would like to report a theft, a robbery. Yes, the victim's name is George Miller. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Trilbee, and today I'm going to be talking about the 88th Academy Awards that were held last night, or rather this morning. I'm from the UK. The ceremony did not start until 1:30 in the morning and did not end until 5:05 in the morning. I have not slept. I am very tired and I can't seem to sleep, so in my sleep-deprived yet somehow hyperactive state, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the ceremony. I'll talk about the categories, the nominees and the winners in a moment, but this was a real roller coaster ride of a ceremony. There was some true peaks, although there were some really low valleys, and a big portion of those valleys did come from Chris Rock, who was hosting the event. Now, we knew that he was going to be drawing attention to the whole Oscar so white thing. We knew it was going to happen. He acknowledged it before he hosted the ceremony, and we were expecting it, but who knew that it would literally be his one joke? Almost every time it cut back to Chris Rock, he was making another joke at it, and yeah, you acknowledge it, you open the show with it. You should have opened the show with those on-street interviews. That should have been the opening of the show, but to bring it up all the time, to make comedy sketches about it, to just really, obviously the intention was to make the audience feel awkward, but when it's your one joke, it just shows that Chris Rock really didn't have much range in his routine. Actually, no, I'm wrong. He did have one other joke, the Girl Scout cookies. That was a bit that existed. And I was live tweeting during the event. Lots of people I saw on my Twitter feed loved him, they were laughing, and they really enjoyed him. So if you enjoyed him, I don't think he completely bombed, I don't think he crashed and burnt, but he did absolutely nothing for me, and I actually think this is one of the weaker hosting jobs in recent years. He just did nothing for me. In fact, the person who was on stage who really stole the show for me was Louis C.K., who is introducing the Best Documentary Short subject. He was hysterically funny. He made me laugh more in his 1 minute on stage, more than Chris Rock did during the entire 4-hour ceremony, unlike Sarah Silverman, who really did crash and burn. And when we got to the Best Animated Feature category, I realised something. We had more robots, more androids, and more animated CGI characters on stage than we had black people. And with Chris Rock lampshade hanging the whole thing, you figured they'd try and fix that. But let's talk about the winners. The big prize Best Picture went to Spotlight, which was a relatively welcome surprise. Everyone was just gearing themselves up for The Revenant or The Big Short or even Mad Max Fury Road, and yet Spotlight just kind of came out of nowhere. I believe it's the first movie since 1952 to win Best Picture while only having one previous win. The other upsets during the ceremony was Mark Rylance winning Best Supporting Actor. Pretty much everyone was rooting for Sylvester Stallone. Arnold Schwarzenegger even took to Twitter afterwards to tell Sylvester Stallone that he was a winner to him, which was very sweet. And don't get me wrong, Mark Rylance was brilliant in Bridge of Spies. It was a very subdued, great performance. He had some of the best moments in the entire film, and he often stole the show from Tom Hanks, which is no easy feat. But I really was rooting for Sylvester Stallone. But Mark Rylance is a very deserving winner, and I'm kind of upset for him now because he's going to have so many people hating on him, so many people just wanting to throttle him, even though they've probably not even seen Bridge of Spies. We also had The Hateful Eight winning Best Score. That could have really gone to anybody. I actually think that category had some of the biggest snubs in it. There was no nomination for Mad Max Fury Road, and when it was winning all of the technical awards early on, it became apparent that that music that was playing every time they had to walk to the stage, Brothers in Arms by Junkie XL, it kind of became apparent that that's an awesome track and that Mad Max Fury Road did have one of the best musical scores of the year. It was superb. I also would have nominated Inside Out, Michael Giacchino's score. But for me, the biggest upset for the night, and the biggest upset for a lot of people on Twitter, was Sam Smith winning Best Original Song for Writings on the Wall for Spectre. Now, the song's kind of grown on me, but I do think it is one of the weaker James Bond songs, and I think the reason it was such a big upset, at least during the ceremony, was that he was the first original song performer to perform, and then he was followed by the song from 50 Shades of Grey, and then it was followed by Lady Gaga Until It Happens to You, and it was such a powerful, wonderful performance. Lady Gaga absolutely nailed it. She did terrific on that stage, and you had all of the people come out and the audience was cheering, standing ovations. It was basically the equivalent to Common and John Legend coming up on stage last year and performing Glory. And after that moment, I thought, I've not even heard of this song until now. This is going to be the winning song. This is the one that's getting everybody going. This is the one that's emotionally impacting people. It was such a wonderful sequence, and I thought that the song was going to win. And then a few minutes later, Sam Smith won for what is one of the weaker Bond songs. And if you were to judge it just on performances of the night, just take away the song and the movie, whatever, just the song on the night, Lady Gaga, no question, should have won that. And I think that is one of the biggest upsets, and it's going to be one of the biggest controversies moving forward. And I've got to say this, The Hunting Ground, a movie about rape on college campuses and how to prevent it, and how they had a big call to action saying we have to stop this, we have to work together to help both male and female victims of rape, and then to be nominated in the same category as a song from 50 Shades of Grey, a adamantly pro-rape movie. The fucking gall. That is so tone deaf. But speaking of blatant robberies, yeah, George Miller should have absolutely won Best Director. Even if Mad Max Fury Road did not win Best Picture, I could accept that. It would have been a Gravity or Life of Pi situation where a movie was so technically astounding in the eyes of the Academy and in the industry that even if it doesn't win Best Picture, the director should be applauded for that effort. And George Miller went into the desert for years with hundreds of actors, countless stunts, explosions, pyrotechnics in the scorching heat in his late 60s, and put together one of the most exhilarating, technically exuberant movies of 2015. And then Alejandro Inarritu wins for going into the wilderness for a couple of months with a handful of actors. And I'm not saying that The Revenant was an easy film to make, but by comparison, if you're going by the same logic, George Miller should have just walked away with that award, no question. But I think one reason I sort of had Inarritu as the villain for the night was when early on, Jenny Bevin won Best Costume Design for Mad Max Fury Road, and she went up against Jacqueline West for The Revenant. When she won the award, she's walking towards the stage, dressed up in her bag lady look, looking like she's doing cosplay as the lady in the van. And you've got to admire that a woman who is a costume designer would go out wearing clothes like that. She does not give a single crap what you think of her, and that is so admirable, and I do love it. But as she's walking towards the stage, everyone's clapping, everybody's cheering, but then she walks past Alejandro Inarritu, the director of The Revenant. She walks past him, and he just looked absolutely disgusted. He looked absolutely cold, dead, furious. He wasn't applauding. He just looked absolutely grim. He was he was probably just furious that she won Best Costume over The Revenant. And it was basically, you absolute snob. I don't know him in person, but this public persona he has, he looked absolutely furious that she won over his film. And he's kind of the guy to root against during the rest of the night. Unlike Leonardo DiCaprio, who did end up winning Best Actor. Now, I've got to make this apparent, I've got to make this clear. I do love Leo, and I think he's a terrific actor, and he deserves an Oscar on his mantle. He deserves multiple Oscars. He deserves everything he gets. But this was a case of the wrong movie and the wrong year, because in terms of The Revenant, it's actually one of his weakest performances, I think. I think he's so much better, so much more charismatic, so much more interesting, so much more magnetic and captivating on screen in Django Unchained, in The Aviator, in Catch Me If You Can, in The Wolf of Wall Street, in The Great Gatsby, in J. Edgar. He's done dozens of better performances in other movies, and to be rewarded for The Revenant, it is disappointing. It's going to be like James Cameron, where he won so many awards for Titanic, in that he's going to be most successful for his weakest film. And then when you compare him to other actors in the category, Matt Damon should have won that award. He basically did the same thing as Leonardo DiCaprio did, in that he carried big chunks of the movie on his own. He had nobody to talk to. He had to go through these arduous conditions, or at least on Mars or in the wilderness or whatever. Except Matt Damon did it with peaks and valleys, he did it with range, he did it with gusto, he did it with an interesting character, whereas Hugh Glass, he has no characteristics other than wanting to survive. And I know people are going to say, it's not all about the dialogue, it's not all about the character, it's about the performance. And yeah, you are right in principle, but there's got to be some leeway. There's got to be a writer writing a compelling character, writing a character worth the audience getting invested in on paper, and then the actor actually doing it. And if the character's not interesting, it doesn't matter how good the performance is, I just cannot give a solitary, family-friendly fuck what happens to that person or the actor portraying him. Does DiCaprio deserve an Oscar? Yes, but it was the case of the wrong year for the wrong movie. Unlike Alicia Vikander, who was the right actress in the right year for the wrong movie. She was better in Ex Machina. Oh, and speaking of Ex Machina, that movie also pulled a major upset by winning the Best Visual Effects category over competition like Star Wars The Force Awakens, Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian and The Revenant. According to Twitter, I've not fact-checked this, but Twitter's normally right, mostly, Ex Machina is the lowest budgeted movie to win Best Visual Effects. It kind of reminds me of in 2009 when District 9 and Avatar were both nominated for Best Visual Effects. I would have personally gone for District 9 for that year for Best Visual Effects, but this was a case of the little guy winning. Whether or not you think Ex Machina deserves it or not, that is pretty darn admirable. There were also a few categories in which I think the best person did win, like Brie Larson winning for Room. We also had Inside Out winning for Best Animated Film, though Anomalisa comes out in the UK next month and I can't wait to check it out. And we also had Amy win for Best Documentary, which I was incredibly happy about. I'd not seen any other of the documentaries that were nominated in the category, but Amy got my vote anyway. Blimey, is this what being an Academy voter feels like? Bear Story won Best Animated Short. I've not seen any of them except for Sanjay's Super Team because it played in front of The Good Dinosaur. Apparently everybody on Twitter was very, very upset with that and they wanted World of Tomorrow to win. I don't know. And as for the screenplays, I said in my last video, I think it's absolutely stupid that original screenplays include true stories, because that really does sort of dilute the whole original aspect of the screenplay. So yeah, Spotlight won that. There was no big surprise, even though Inside Out was really the absolute head and shoulders winner of that category. And Best Adapted Screenplay, I think that The Big Short, while not the best movie to be nominated at the Oscars, is probably the most important and has the most to say and is the most subversive. So I'm happy it won, although I was personally rooting for almost everything else in that category, The Martian, Room and Brooklyn. And as for Carol, it was alright. I was disappointed to see The Martian and Brooklyn walk away empty-handed. It's disappointing, but there's only so many categories and there are so many Best Picture nominees. It's a very flawed system in terms of the categories and the amount of nominees, so I can't really suggest anything to fix that. But what was disappointing was that I ranked the Best Picture nominees from best to worst in my last video, The Martian being on top and The Revenant being on the bottom, and just above The Revenant was Spotlight, which I did like. I thought it was pretty good. However, the Spotlight and Revenant took home some of the biggest awards, and I actually thought they were the weakest movies. But like I said before, I think the variety of the films on display was second to none. I think that the variety of the films, even in the animation categories, even though I hadn't seen the films, you were just looking at the different animation styles and every gamut was covered. You did have these great genre-hopping movies, these great technical achievements, these art house things, these very intimate documentaries, these broad scoping ones, and I think the nominees is probably one of the most diverse lists of nominees we have had in quite some time. But the winners did kind of let me down. And as for the award ceremony itself, I think so much focus is going to be on those movies because I just think the ceremony itself really didn't have that much to offer. But apparently that makes me racist, because if I don't like Chris Rock hosting the Oscars and I like Seth MacFarlane, that makes me a racist, apparently. But that's just what I think, a very tired, sleep-deprived white British man who is not Chris Rock and thought that Trumbo was a very awesome movie. But what did you folks think of the 88th Academy Awards? Do you think that Chris Rock did a good job hosting? What did you think of the guest speakers that they brought on board? What do you think of the song choices? Were there any upsets that completely surprised you, or did you see them coming from a mile away? And what about the Dark Horse victories? Do you think that Mad Max deserved those technical categories? Do you think that Spotlight deserved Best Picture? And of course Leonardo DiCaprio did deserve an Oscar, but did he deserve it for The Revenant, and did he deserve it in this lineup of actors? Get in the comment section below, and I'm going to be talking more about the Oscars in the Movie Mania podcast with Bandit Incorporated later on today. I'll record it tonight once I've hopefully slept. So thank you very much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button because it really, really helps me out. Be sure to subscribe for more movie-related content, and I shall see you folks next time. I'm going to go sleep.
Trilbee.